Welcome to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken. Shep will talk with some of the smartest thinkers in business to help make you more successful in your professional and personal life. This is Amazing Business Radio with Shep Hyken.
Hello, everybody. It's Shep Hyken here. We're back with another episode of Amazing Business Radio. Very excited today because we are going into the corporate trenches. We are going to be interviewing Joseph Walsh, Vice President of Product Marketing, UCC at GoTo. And UCC is not the Unified Commercial Code. It's the Unified Communication and Collaboration suite of products that GoTo has. We are going to be talking about all things customer service and experience, especially related to the contact center and how companies can create a better experience. Before we get into that, quick announcement. If you've got a question or a story that you want to share, reach out to me at any of the social media channels because I am everywhere. And if it is a question, please use the hashtag Ask Shep. I'll answer the question there in the social channel, on this show, and my newsletter, The Shepherd Letter, or on my TV show, Be Amazing or Go Home. Episodes can be found on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Prime, or just go to beamazing.tv. That's beamazing.tv, and you could pick up all the episodes and binge them all in a long day. All right, everybody, it's time for an interview with Joseph Walsh. Joe, welcome to the show.
Shep, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be chatting with you for the next 30 minutes or so.
Yeah, this is exciting. And I feel like I'm in celebrity. I'm humbled. I'm nervous because I'm looking at you. And I know most of the people can't see what you look like, but I'm looking at a younger version of Joe Walsh, the famous guitarist who played with the Eagles. And you look really good, man.
It's the power of AI these days.
I know.
You can do whatever you want. Yeah, but I'm sure I could probably play as well as Joe Walsh if I use technology.
Right. And for those, the Gen Z and millennials out there who have no idea who Joe Walsh is, Google Joe Walsh, one of the all-time iconic guitar players. Rolling Stone probably lists him as a top 10. The guy's amazing. And so anyway, enough about that Joe Walsh. Let's talk about this Joe Walsh from GoTo. And I, many years ago, not that many years ago, worked with GoTo, and they hired me, and I did a bunch of webinars and virtual events. And that's what GoTo was, GoTo Meeting, GoTo Webinar. But you have evolved quite a bit since then.
Yeah, we have. And we do a lot more than just the meetings and the collaboration, Shep. And we go back, we've been around 23 years. Many people will know us from our previous company called Log Me In, which
Yes.
we were up until the 2nd of February 22. And yeah, our roots go right back to Budapest in the early 2000s, where we were kind of pioneers in remote connectivity and remote access. Bridging, our founder was reluctantly crossing the bridge between Buda and Pest every day, and it took about 3 hours for him to do that. So he invented remote access to a server he was working on, and that so we could log in, and that's where Log Me In started. But yeah, over those 23 years, we've grown to so much more than remote access and remote support. Big history and heritage in communications and collaboration. A lot of people will be familiar with GoToWebinar. A lot of people familiar with GoToMeeting. We've been very successful in that space. And over the last number of years, through a few acquisitions and innovation in our product set, we've branched more into customer communication tools, phone systems, contact center platforms, customer engagement tools for like web chat, SMS communication, social media conversations, and bringing all that crucially under one roof. And that's a big goal of a lot of organizations these days, whether you're a business, whether you're a school or a hospital, is trying to consolidate all the tech and the explosion that's happened over the last 20 years and simplify it as much as possible. And that's where we're big champions of, is bringing all those capabilities under one roof into one application, one piece of software.
Well, I want to come back to that exact comment, bringing it all together. But before, I just think it's absolutely amazing that the founder, spending too much time on the bridge, getting over, said, I've got to have a way to be productive. And necessity is the mother of invention. Is that right? Is that the terminology, I think, or that's the phrase?
That's it. That's it. That's 100% it, Shep. And yeah, it's a really inspirational story. And what grew out of Budapest, we're now headquarters in Boston, Massachusetts. We've been on the stock market, taken off the stock market. it's been a real journey. And over those 20 years, we've acquired a number of businesses as well, which has really increased our skill set and capability that we have within the company. And we're very excited about our offering for the market, and we think it's very relevant for where we find ourselves as well today.
Right. So headquarters in Boston, which now I hear the accent. I want you to say I parked the car in the Harvard yard.
Well, I would like to park the car in the Harvard yard, right? And attend Harvard at some stage. That's definitely a mission of mine. I touched on earlier, Shep. I've been in Boston many times and spent 3 months there many moons ago. I didn't actually get to Harvard, which I wanted to do. I've gotten there virtually over COVID. I'd like to get there and practice for sure over the next couple of years.
Yeah, park the car in the Harvard yard. My son and I mentioned to you before we came on, went to Berkeley College of Music to try to get in to their program. And we decided to take a walk, and we walked up to Harvard, onto Harvard's campus. We went to the library. I said, I want to see what that library is like. And we walked in there, and they turned us away. And my son was disappointed. I go, Brian, now you can tell everybody the first college that turned you away was Harvard. So anyway, let's get into this. You mentioned bringing it all together under one roof. And to me, this is really important, especially in the customer service experience world, where you have agents who are interacting with customers. And there was a time, probably, I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago, where I said the company that figures out how to pull all of the needs that an agent has under, as your words, under one roof or into one type of program. You can have different pieces of the program open up, but what we're trying to avoid, for the sake of convenience, if you will, is having multiple programs from multiple vendors on a screen where you're clicking from this program to that program and trying to get them to sync with one another. And it sounds like that's part of what GoTo is about.
Yeah, it's a big part of what we're about. And I'll go a step further, Shep. It's not just having all the agents and everything they need under one roof. It's having the entire company under one roof, right? Because today, to answer the needs of customers, you need the entire company working together. You need fast access to subject matter experts. Those people in the front line might have a lot of the answers, but they probably won't have all the answers. And it's about making sure that an organization can answer those customer queries and serve those customers the best they can. Because crucially, just to set the scene a little bit on it, Shep, like without a doubt, your CX experience that you provide, the people that you serve, and your growth as an organization go hand in hand. Disgruntled customers or customers that have a poor experience, they're more price sensitive, they're less likely to make repeat purchases, where happy customers on the other side are much less price sensitive. They buy more, they're repeat purchasers more. So it 100% directly impacts your bottom line. And it's about your tech, right? We talked about that. A lot's changed in the last 4 or 5 years since COVID kind of kicked in. Your tech is really important, but don't forget as well the business processes that you apply around that tech. And crucially, your people as well, how they are experienced and equipped to handle that tech is really important about getting that CX experience right.
Yep, you went right into my next topic, which, technology, people, and process. You got to get that right, or your experience, especially what I would consider the customer service experience, is going to fall flat. You made a great comment that experience and growth go hand in hand. And with growth comes potential profitability. So companies, leaders, we really need to keep our eye on all three of these: technology, people, and process. Any other thoughts before we jump into our next topic?
I suppose a lot on it, Shep. It depends. Each point in time for a business is different, right? So what works for one business or one organization now might necessarily work for another business, another organization. It depends where they're at, right? And what the requirements are and where they are in their maturity. And then also what you've got as well, which is really important, is you can create a bit of inequity within those three things, where your people are more advanced than your tech, or maybe your tech's more advanced than your people, right? And that can have kind of some impacts on businesses as well.
How do you get that balance?
You need to monitor it and manage it. You need to really kind of understand where you are, understand what the requirements are, and understand how you're set up to deliver it, and work closely with the leaders in that customer service area, understand where tech is, and understand, importantly, what your customer requirements and wants are, and making sure they all match up.
So is it, it's so crucial that managers, CX leaders really listen to what's happening on the front line, and not just listening to what customers are saying as they interact with agents and however they interact, be it on the phone, chat, even with AI, an AI-fueled chatbot. It's not just monitoring that, it's listening to the opinions of the people on the front line. Where are we excelling? Where are our shortcomings? We need to analyze every conversation, not to grade, but to determine, are we doing what's necessary for our customers?
Yeah, I think for that, Shep, and for an organization to understand where they're at, what we see kind of traditionally is four different stages of contact centers, and that gives you the impact or a better understanding of what you need to do from a tech standpoint, what you need to do from a process standpoint, and what you need to do from a people standpoint. And it can be the life cycle of a business. It's just starting out. It's maybe kind of starting a contact center for the first time, or maybe it's quite an established business, but their tech has become outdated and they're trying to deal with a much kind of different customer environment and customer requirements on old tech or old processes that aren't suited. And it's about making sure you evolve as your business evolves, and you evolve as your customer requirements evolve. Because you touch on artificial intelligence, right? Some people could be like, I would love to get to artificial intelligence and automate everything and have bots doing everything for me, but at this moment in time, I don't even know how many phone calls I'm receiving, or I can't get insight into who's performing better on the call. So there's a bit of it. There's what we call tech debt, right? Between maybe what's innovation coming out on the market versus where maybe a lot of organizations are in terms of their evolution. And maybe it's not about using the tech of today. Maybe the tech of 5 years or 10 years ago, even just getting that deployed can really improve and offering that for a business in terms of their CX and what they offer to their customers.
So I've got a couple of questions, but I want to play off that last statement. So sometimes it's not looking forward to improve, it's actually looking backward to improve. What technology have we not taken advantage of that's been there for a while that will make us better?
To illustrate that to some listeners, Shep, a really simple way of looking at it, right, is you can have all this great artificial intelligence that can really enhance automation and self-service and components like that within the different channels that you use. But a lot of organizations today, and a lot of frustrations we see with customers, is that a lot of organizations haven't even deployed these channels. Something simple like web chat, right? They're not using it. Now, would I go and argue a big business case to deploy some, AI innovation within maybe your call center that brings in some innovation and brings in some, productivity benefits versus maybe adding in another channel? Like web chat's old, but you can't. It's got a really modern purpose and a current day purpose. You need to have it. Like, is your audience in social media? Can you engage with them through Facebook, through Instagram, places like that? These aren't necessarily cutting edge technical innovations that have launched, today. They've been there for a long time, but a lot of organizations still haven't embraced them. So looking back and going, okay, this is where I'm at. There's a few steps I need to get to before I go all guns blazing on the latest AI innovation.
Really cool. Very cool. All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, you mentioned there's 4 stages in a business. You didn't tell us what those stages are. I want to hit on that. I also want to talk to you about what you feel the best channels for communication with customers are. I'd like to I'm going to put you on the spot, and I realize it might be personal opinion, not academic research, but I'd like to know what you feel in order the best channels that customers are using today for communication and what you think they should be using, not what they actually are using. And that and a whole lot more in just a moment. We're talking with Joe Walsh, the Vice President of Product Marketing at GoTo. This is Amazing Business Radio. Don't go away. One of my favorite sayings is that customer service isn't a department, it's a philosophy. And it's a philosophy that must be embraced by everyone in the organization all the time, and that's 24/7. So if customer service is important to you, and I know it is, then you will love our virtual training, the ultimate on-demand customer service and experience training program that you can access anytime, anywhere. Now, the course content applies to everyone, regardless of position and responsibility, from senior executives to the most recently hired and everyone in between. You'll discover tips, ideas, and strategies that won't cost your company a fortune, but will produce what I call moments of magic, those positive experiences, and it will happen at every level of your organization. So go to Customer Service VT. That's V as in virtual, T as in training. That's customerservicevt.com. It's time to get customer focused.
You're listening to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken.
We're back on Amazing Business Radio talking with Joe Walsh, VP of Product Marketing at GoTo. I have some questions left over from the first half of our interview, and you mentioned four stages, and you were talking about life cycle of a business and all that, and I just want to get your take on what those four stages are.
Yeah, Shep, like, you use life cycle is a great word. It's like the life cycle of a customer service center, customer experience center, or contact center in an organization. And we see like at four typical stages businesses are at or organizations are at. And the first is like they've basically initiated conversations that they're setting up, they're getting ready to field multiple calls, queries from customers, and they need to be set up to do that, right? And when businesses and organizations are at a stage, their tech is normally fairly traditional, right? They're using a standard phone system. It's got some limited features, and nearly all the interactions with customers are call based, right? For the people that are dealing with these calls on it, they tend to be like they're young, they're following a script. There's little room for creativity, right? So they need to be well briefed, well catered for. They need to have very kind of strict guardrails to go down to make sure they can answer those queries come in for customers. And the processes that an organization has at this stage is all around building compliance, right? Making sure that they're following those procedures, and they're trying to learn a bit more about these interactions. So they tend to really focus on things like, what's the volume of calls that I'm actually receiving in? Because that's very important to understand how many people they need on the phones, right? What's our average handling time? Are our customers waiting for 30 minutes on the phone? That's a bad experience, right? What time of day do they tend to call most? So you can manage your staff rota around it and stuff like that. And then making sure you build an infrastructure around that. So that's your very standard. We're setting up a contact center, or we have a fairly traditional old school call center in place, and we're stuck in that moment of contact center. So that's phase one. It's where businesses are literally having conversations. The second phase is more around collaboration, right? And this is where you're evolving a little bit past just the phone system. You're maybe introducing a few other channels into your conversation. You're using technology a little bit better. You're touching a bit more modern technology. You're using integration. So, your phone systems may be integrated with your CRM platform. So the agents on the phone have more insight and more detail behind the customer when they ring, because it's popping up from the CRM platform. Those agents on the phone are becoming a bit more skilled. Okay, they're not as robotic and as strictly adhering to scripts as maybe they were previously. They're becoming a bit more knowledgeable of the products and have a bit more leeway for creativity. And then the process is about, okay, we're up and running. Now we're not just learning about the volume of calls. We're learning about the customer journey. We're learning about how can we be a bit more proactive and less reactive? How can we hit things off before it ends up with calls into the contact center, and how you learning from that? And a lot of that's done through like analyzing past calls, maybe using data to drive some decisions, trying to use maybe data a little bit in real time, and then like identifying customer pain points and understanding how you can change that journey or change the process to nip that in the bud and stop that pain point from happening in the first place. So you'll also probably have, I touched on this at the top of the call, right? Having front of office staff and back of office staff on the same platforms. So it's not like, oh, I don't have the answer to that, I'm going to have to get back to you. It's like, oh, I can see Shep's at his desk, I'm using Presence, right? And I can send Shep a message, and Shep's like, oh yeah, Shep's the subject matter expert on a particular product, and can feed that information back into the customer service rep first time. So you can actually end that call with a satisfactory outcome for the customer first time, rather than having to get back. And of course, that means you get to the next customer faster. So that customer has a knock-on benefit and experience with it. So they're the first two phases, Shep, around initiating those conversations, and then getting your tech and your whole organization to collaborate a little bit more, all in the name of giving a better experience to your customers. So
number three,
we're coming more into the 2020s, right? We're coming more into the digital experience. You're going to omni-channel. And I know everybody in the audience can relate to this. When maybe you have a conversation with someone on web chat, and then you need to deflect to a phone call because the complexity of the query is a little bit higher, and you meet a new person, a new customer representative, and you need to go back to the beginning and start all over again, right? So this is where you're actually getting, your technology is much more modern, more digital. You've probably got a full array of channels out there. You're using web chat, you're using social media, you're using email, and everything's working seamlessly together, and people can move around those channels better. So your tech's better. At this stage, the people at the other end of the tech, right, they're beginning to master the craft of customer experience. They're skilled in multi-channel communications. They can move from web chat to the phone system to social media. They know how to interact and engage in all those different environments. They're far more knowledgeable on your business. They're becoming something that's not as easily replaced. So you need to really focus a lot more on work-life balance and, you know, the quality of work experience for these agents. You're investing time in them, you're training them. You know, they're proper skilled, knowledgeable workers in your company, and they know how your organization works, and they can really get creative with their answers, right? And then your processes is all about really emphasizing on improving that quality across all the channels. It's looking at everything and every touch point with a customer holistically. And the kind of metrics that matter here is you're looking at first call resolution, you're maybe doing customer satisfaction surveys and CSAT scores afterwards. You know, you're looking at a lot of employee satisfaction scores as well. How happy are they? Because, you know, happy employees will treat your customers in a much better way than maybe, you know, disgruntled employees will. And that's the big power of phase 3, is really kind of elevating it. And I meant to mention a little bit earlier, but at those first stages, you're probably looking, whoa, there's a lot of costs with this contact center. There's a lot of costs around the resources that are doing it. You're viewing as, my God, how can I maybe do this as efficiently as possible? The mindset's completely different now, right? When you get to a more established, more evolved contact center that's really digitally powered, you're looking at it as a growth center, driving those customer service scores, driving that CX, getting those repeat purchases in, giving such a happy experience that they're not that concerned about price. Yeah, they've got everybody's price sensitive at some stage, but they're not about getting the cheapest price. They're willing to pay a bit more in that value offering that you're giving, because your customer experience is so great. And then that brings us, we talked about maybe the tech debt, right? You got a phase 4, and this is 2024. This is like automation, artificial intelligence. You're finding ways, a lot of ways for businesses for organizations, their customers, to self-serve, so they can actually sort things out themselves. They can log on either through online portals, through bots that are answering on web chats. You're deploying everything that is like, it's reducing a lot of the mundane, repetitive tasks, right, that can be handled really easily. And that's giving a much better customer experience. And research shows across the board, customers are really willing to engage with bots to get answers to simple questions in a really fast manner, because it improves their experience.
Wow, that is like a master class
It
in
is.
the 4 stages of the contact center.
It is, yeah, and that's what we see, Shep, when we go and talk to organizations, right? So if you, and just when I talk about knowing where you're at, knowing what your customer demands are, knowing where you are as a business, right? This is going back to very simple times when social media started becoming a thing. And organizations started using it to interact with customers. It's a completely different medium to the phone set, to the phone call, right? And people who use social media have different expectations to people who make phone calls, and you need to be equipped to deal with that. And a lot of people would turn on to social media and they'd be like, oh, well, we only have somebody manning social media 9 to 5. And then all these queries that come into Twitter, come into Facebook, silence from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. Like, what's this about? I expect a response. They expect a response within 15 minutes, right? So you have to understand the customer requirements, your skill set, and your people. Do you have people? If you've got a 24-hour channel, have you got people set up to monitor it 24 hours? Or is there a period of silence? How do you deal with that period of silence? Can you automate some responses and stuff like that? So really important, even just simple things like channels. And we haven't even touched on like AI that is helping people automate kind of conversation summaries and submit that into the CRM platforms, using real-time sentiment analysis to, you're not even waiting to hear, you know, what customers are saying, because AI is picking it up for you, it's analyzing it, and it's telling you there's a problem before you've even realized there's a problem, because of the mood and maybe a negative tone in a lot of conversations. And then you can drill down into that in real time to figure out, you know, well, you can hit like a word cloud and go, oh my God, billing issues is coming up big. I click on billing issues. You can actually listen to some immediate calls on billing issues and solve that problem in real time. And then you get into a whole lot of other use cases around training and support of agents in the field. So there's a huge amount on that. That's today. A lot of other businesses, you know, still trying to work their way to that.
So it really, this is the evolution of a support center, and watching the growth, and obviously continuous growth. I've got to ask, and I know we're starting to run out of time, but you mentioned social media. How important is social media as a channel? And then I want you very quickly to give me your rundown of what you think the top channels of communication are, not what you want them to be, but what you think customers are using. We do research every year. We have an idea, but I'd love your take on social media first.
Well, do you know what? You touched on it, Shep, right? I'll give you my preference for channels, but what's really important is not about what I think. It's not about what you think, right? It's for the listeners, it's what their customers think, what's their people that they serve. And it's different based on profiles, based on the type of industry you're in, whether it's like business to consumer, whether it's business to business. Different channels are more important in different sectors based on what the customer requirements are. For me, social media is really important if that's where your audience is, right? My preference as a consumer and where I'm at in my life, right? I love web chat. I love web chat. I love my ability to multitask. I'm more accepting of waiting. I don't necessarily like having a phone up to my ear while I'm trying to type because I'm on hold for 15 minutes. You know, I like to be able to multitask, and I love web chat. The next thing I think in terms of importance in that is that where a lot of businesses are is because you're looking for people that are skilled in web chat, maybe they're not as skilled in your business as some of the other people on more traditional channels like the phone system. I get frustrated when the web chat agent goes, oh, I can't help you with that. You would need to speak to one of my reps in the call center, right? That's a really kind of frustrating experience. So, but what I would say, and what's happened a lot with digital channels, because people are still learning, and if I was to be a little bit provocative, Shep, the world needs to do better at customer experience, right? I think some research we've done in the past, Amazon are definitely the benchmark. Everybody else are a long way off, right? And one of the big things we've seen with the emergence of digital channels in customer experience is that it's elevated the importance of the phone system, because if things can't get done in the digital channels, it normally reverts back to the phone.
Right. You've got to fall back. Well,
Yeah.
back to
So
social media. What
yeah.
we're finding is that that's the lowest rated way that customers in general, consumers here in the US, are reaching out to companies. And we're finding that oftentimes the reason they're using social is not their first choice, but it's the one that they think might get noticed. So some customers are seeking revenge on social media, while others
Yeah.
are going, I'm so frustrated. Please help me. I've called, I get put on hold for who knows how long. Your reps keep asking me to repeat myself. I keep getting transferred. I'm not getting my answers. I'm not dissing, the contact center, but that's where social media is for a lot of customers. But you're saying you like it also as a way to just simply, communicate. And by the way, you mentioned Twitter. Do we tweet on X,
Yeah.
or do
X,
we X on
X.
X?
That's it. Yeah, fair point. But I think we go back. One of the recurring themes today, Shep, has been the importance of your business processes and your people as well as your technology, right? And that's a big thing on social media. You can turn on the technology and go, yes, we're open to customer service on social media. But if your people aren't skilled to deal with those difficult situations where people try to shout really loud in the public forum about a negative experience that they've had, if your processes don't empower those people dealing in those channels to solve that problem for that customer, it's going to get a hell of a lot worse, right? So it's not just about turning on the channel, but making sure your business process and your people are equipped to deal with that channel in the best way as well, right? So that's for me. So, and I'll give actually this is one thing I've learned through research, which blew my mind with social media, and just the expectations of people that love social media and use it as a channel, is that they may not even contact you through your social media channels, right? If people will go onto their own Facebook page, right, and let's say it's AT&T or it's Verizon, they'll go, hey, at AT&T, I had a terrible experience today. What are you going to do about it, right? They've just posted that on their own Facebook page. They expect a response. They expect AT&T to respond to that. And that can infuriate them even more. So again, it's not even about what comes in through your official channels. It's how people talk about you on social media. So if you're going to be there, be there. You can't just half turn up. You have to be there and embrace the entire medium and the people who use it and what their expectations are on it.
Right. This shouldn't be an afterthought. All right. We are out of time. I have one final question. You know what's coming. You have given us a tremendous amount of information. As a matter of fact, I have this vision in my head that if we just wind you up a little bit tighter, you're going to go even further than you've already gone. You've given us so much in the last 27 minutes, believe it or not. Give us one final nugget of information that you feel we have to know related to the whole customer service experience world from your point of view.
Yeah, from my point of view, Shep, I think anyone who's listening and is working in an organization, they need to think and go, look, is our customer service up to scratch, or can we do a better job, right? And most organizations will probably concede they can do a better job. And if that's the case, it's costing you money, today. It's costing you whatever is the organization you're running, whether it's like, driving revenue in a business, whether it's a not-for-profit, you're trying to serve people or whatever it is, right? You are serving less of people you can serve, or you're getting less for your efforts, right? Because your CX could be better than it is today. If that's the case, you got to do something about it. You got to look at your tech, you got to look at your business, and you got to look at your people, and you need to build out a plan to get you to where you can be providing the best and optimal customer experience, because it's how you're going to grow. It's how you're going to improve your overall service that you offer your customers. And it's about providing a healthy, bright future. And if you don't do it, your competitors will, and they'll get the edge on you.
Wow. I just want to meet the company that says, no, we have no way to grow because we're so perfect at what we are. I would imagine that even Amazon, the benchmark that you say is set for everybody, is probably saying there is probably a way for us to be even better. So this has been a great interview, Joe. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Cheers, Shep. I really enjoyed it. Great to meet you. And then just for some context with all the Joe Walsh and the Eagle stuff at the start, you talk about if people could see you, they'd see all the guitars in the background, and they get a lot of context as to where that's kind of coming from. So thanks very much. I enjoyed the chat, and would love to come back on again.
Thanks. Yes, I am a musician. I'm not the best musician, but I have fun doing it. No doubt about that. All right, everybody, that wraps it up. Another great interview on Amazing Business Radio, and we will be back next week with another one, so please be sure to tune in. Until that time, this is Shep Hyken reminding you to always be amazing.